Yes, can you?
Yeah,
Absolutely. I was just about to figure out if I could share it.
I got to.
Can I share it to my Facebook page?
Yeah, I think you can't. You tell him, Deb. He's got like two places he can share it once we're live, which we are now. She said she'd take care of the.
Let me look for God-based recovery. Okay. 8 minutes. Is that this one? That's Zoom. Oh, we must not be on yet.
If anything, I think Deb's sharing it to your group page.
Yeah, I mean that'll be fine if it's just a group page. I was gonna try to do it to my Facebook too.
And then I got you the link we could send you afterwards too. If you want to, like, you can clip it down and like put it on your YouTube channel or whatever you wanted to do with it too. So
Okay,
it's kind of cool how StreamYard does that. It'll take just like certain clips of the testimony and put them in like a minute, 2 minute things. I'm like, dude, that's kind of cool. So kudos to StreamYard. Oh man. We live on GBR, Deb. All right, we are live on GBR, God-Based Recovery page. I'm with Jason P. Hamilton today. He's got a Facebook group called From Heathen to Heaven, also a YouTube channel. He was a speaker at one of our Discovery Fellowship meetings a couple weeks ago, and I was just getting to hear his parts of his story for the first time, and it was powerful, man. And everybody in there was like, we got to hear that full story. I already knew I was going to try to get it and told him I would bug him till he had a couple hours to do it, for us. So he's going to be sharing his full testimony tonight. I'm not going to be having a whole bunch of questions. It's his story, and he speaks well. So I'm just going to sit back with everybody. I might have a question here or there that, I might have to come in with. But other than that, I'm just thankful he's going to be with us today. And, I've been doing I just wanted to say before we start, this is his true story, man. And it can get pretty powerful and pretty deep. And not to do like a full trigger warning for anybody, but he might be talking on something that really relates to somebody else and possibly trigger them in some kind of way. We don't want to do that, but I can't have somebody water down their testimony, what God's done for them. But if you hear anything that gets a little bit too personal for you or too deep, just let us know and put it in the chat. And, I'll definitely have somebody from the group reach out to you because, I can speak for Jason, when I say that, we don't want to be doing this and sharing our testimonies at the detriment of somebody else. So, if things get a little bit too tight for you or too personal, just let us know if you got to leave the live feed, and I'll maybe reach out to you or something like that, because we're just trying to grow together, man. And we don't want anybody to be triggered by somebody else's story. So just wanted to say that. But let me pray us in, Jason, and I'll just hand it over to you, brother.
All right, come on.
Father God, how blessed am I to have this time with my brother Jason, who's going to be sharing his testimony, Lord. And you know all about it. You know everywhere he was, everywhere he went, and every fire that you pulled him from. And you know where he's heading, Lord. And I just ask that you guide his words today as he tells his testimony, his story. And I just hope that it resonates with at least one person that's going to be listening and watching today or watching later on. And I just ask that you be with his friends and family, Lord, and everybody that's going to be watching this live feed, friends and family today. Just so blessed to be meeting people like this, Lord. You place people in my life that I'm just eternally grateful for and fellowshipping with and learning from each day, Lord. And I couldn't have done that without you. So you get all the glory. And just look over both of us today in this live feed. And I know that you'll take care of the rest like you always do. I say this prayer in your beautiful, mighty, powerful Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
In Jesus' name, amen.
Jason P. Hamilton,
I like
everybody.
that. Yeah, we got to invoke the name Jesus over all of it. Makes it powerful. Yeah, I'm glad to be back with you guys. It's crazy. We're brothers, but we're states away. Never met each other. I feel like I've known you for years. uh, so my testimony. I always like to say I'm a bad boy gone good, and only through the blood of Christ. If you know my story, you probably understand why I say that. Um, my story is one of faith and recovery. Um, I always start off with the story of basically, I was basically an atheist for a very long time, starting when I was young. And that story basically started when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I was at this daycare that was right down the street from my parents' house, LaPorte. I'm from the suburbs of Houston, LaPorte, Deer Park, Pasadena. And it wasn't because my parents wanted me to find God or anything. It was just right. It was just 2 blocks away. It was convenient and it was cheap. So they put us in that daycare. And we were having a Bible study or Sunday school. I don't remember what it was, but this teacher was talking, about the Bible, and she was talking about Satan and Lucifer. And you remember I'm young, and she, when she's saying like, "Well, Satan, this and this and that," I'm like, I put my hand up, and she calls on me, and I'm like, "Who's Satan?" And immediately she got angry, thinking I was trying to be a class clown, like I was just trying to like be funny. She's like, you don't know who Satan is? She's like, get in the hallway. She kicked me out into the hallway. And I didn't really understand why she was like mad at me, and she comes out into the hallway and she's ready to scold me. And she sees I really don't know who Satan is. She's like, you don't know who Satan is? I'm like, I never heard of Satan, however said it when I was 5 or 6 or 7, I was young. She's like, you're telling me you never heard of Lucifer? No. You're telling me you've never heard of the devil? I'm like, oh, the devil? When we're 5, 6, 7 years old, we're not running around calling him Lucifer and Satan. We're calling the devil, right? But as well-intentioned as she was, this is what she told me that basically started my life of skepticism. And she said, don't ever question the Bible. To do so is blasphemous. You'll go to hell and fire, brimstone, and don't ever question the Bible, this and this and that. And I always say this, because at the point I like to drive home, that if I'm like your parent, if I'm your dad or whatever, and you see me put a couple of deadbolts on my bedroom door, and I'm like, look, I don't care what y'all do in this house, don't go in that room. As soon as I tell you don't go in that room, the first thing that's going to come to your mind is why? What's in that room? Why did you just put a couple of deadbolts on your door? What are you hiding? What's in that room? So when she told me that, first question I had was why? What am I going to find out? So she had well intentions, but me being the youngster I started asking questions. I didn't just believe anything on just what I heard. I had to know like why. Like, why do you believe that? Why? And like that started off my skeptical mind. And like I said before, now thinking about it, hindsight 2020, when I was asking them questions or expressing my doubts and this and that, maybe the people that didn't have my best interest or people that weren't Christians or whatever were filling in those gaps, pulling me further away from God, but I always thought I was a good kid. My parents, I was born in California. I was raised in Texas, been in Texas since I was 2. So I'm from Texas. I've lived in the Houston suburbs. My dad was in the military, man. My mom was a military brat. That's how they met in California, in Oceanside. That's where I was born. Came to Texas when I was about 2 or 3. I had a brother that was 20 months younger than me, born in San Diego. I've been in Texas all my life, but we got it. We didn't have all the money. We didn't have no money. We were living in the trailer park. But I listened to my parents for the most part. My dad was intimidating, man. He was an alcoholic at the time. So overall, but my therapy, what I ran to was my music. That's what I tell people. Music was my therapy at the time. I just locked myself in my room and I would just jam out and I'd just be off my own little music. And back then I was listening to rap music and this and that. But my dad used to be really, really mentally abusive. You know what I mean? At one point he was putting his hands on us, but he finally quit doing that. But he was just like I would say he bullied us. Like he was a military man. He treated us like soldiers, not kids. And I had a hate for my dad. And so carrying on to school, I saw this kid bullying this kid that's scared out of his mind. And like when I seen that kid bullying him, man, I just all these feelings came that I had against my dad came into my head, and I beat the crap out of that bully. Like, yeah, I just beat the crap out of him. And when that happened, it opened up a whole new can of worms because I was an insecure kid. This is like elementary school. I'm wearing glasses, and this is back in the 80s, man. Wasn't no cool glasses back in the 80s. You know what I mean? So yeah, and bullies were, like I said, the bullies were pretty crazy back then. And like I said, I was an insecure kid. But when I beat that bully up, all of a sudden, everything changed. Like all these kids knew my name, and I didn't know who they were. Girls knew my name, and I didn't know who they were. It was like a drug for an insecure kid. You know what I mean? And so I would say that, getting involved in that and seeing that the attention it got for me from mainly the girls, I was, kid going to junior high, I started getting more and more and more involved in, the stuff that would give me that kind of attention in a way. And, I did attend church, when I was a kid, just for something to do. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe, and I'll just go there because there'd be girls there, right? But when I got a little older, like I said, I was raised listening to rap music. A lot of my friends, that Laporte, were black and Mexicans. You know what I mean? Me myself, I'm part Mexican, part white. But so the music started changing in the late '80s. I'm 50, so I'll be 50 next month. So NWA, Spice One, Too Short, all this gangster. The music started turning gangster music, right? And then all these movies started coming out. And that's what I say, man. People who say that movies and music can't influence you, I'm going to call you crazy to your face. Because I would see it and I would watch it and I would want to be that. You know what I mean? I was fascinated. I sensationalized all this stuff and I kind of molded myself into that. I wasn't raised in the hood. My parents weren't poor, and my parents didn't do drugs. They were pretty. My dad drank, but they were pretty square for the most part. My dad was an alcoholic, but they both had jobs. You know what I mean? They were present, though sometimes I wish my dad wasn't because we just couldn't. But I like to tell people I wasn't born into the life. I chose that life. You know what I mean? Because I was so fascinated by it. And then my parents moved me from LaPorte to Deer Park, which is like an all-white school. It's like the least gangster school in Pasadena, in the Houston area, right? But I carried a lot of my ways with me from LaPorte, the way I dressed, the music I listened to. And this school was all preppy and cowboys, and they did not like the fact that I listened to rap music and dressed the way I did. So it seemed like I got in more fights at that school than I did when the one I just left. And the whole reason why my parents moved me is to get me out of trouble. Well, about 10th grade is about the time I started smoking weed and, started like skipping school and, started, kind of going left, you know what I mean? And I got into it with my dad. Let me explain this because it's kind of an important part of the story. When I was 15, 16, I got into it with my dad. We almost I'm just going to summarize, but he was basically just nitpicking over some stupid stuff, and I just got tired of it. And I ended up throwing a hot piece of pizza in his face and calling him out. My dad would have knocked me out in one punch. He's a big guy, but I didn't care. I was just so tired of him that I didn't care anymore. And they ended up kicking me out of the house. Just with the clothes on your back. All those clothes we got, those are ours. You just had the clothes on your back. Well, I broke into my house the following day and stole all my stuff. I got wired up from doing that. I broke into a neighbor's house too. And that started my career as a felon when I was like 16. I got caught for that, got probation. Never seen juvenile hall or nothing. I didn't go. They just let me out of they asked me some questions and let me out to my parents. And that started my little career. So 16, this kid started going to our school. He got kicked out of Pasadena High School. His name's Kenneth. I can't remember why. I want to say he carried a gun to school. So he got suspended or whatever. And he started coming to Deer Park. And me and him kind of favored these girls we were hanging around with at the time. Like, oh, look, y'all look like brothers. Y'all look like brothers. So we became cool. I started hanging out with him. I was going to his house. Now, he lived in Pasadena. Now, Pasadena and Deer Park are a sharp contrast. Deer Park's all like nice houses. Pasadena's the hood. And where he stayed, I was pretty much hood Pasadena. And I started going to his house. I ended up dating a stepsister, but he hung around a lot of these gangsters in Pasadena. And like I told you, I sensationalized all this, and here I am seeing it like for real now. And it's like, man, this is the real thing now. Like this is real life, right? This ain't a movie. This ain't a song. This is real life. I'm seeing guns. I'm seeing all kinds of crazy stuff. And my homeboy Ken is like, look, man, this Sunday coming up, man. They're doing initiations. What's up? You want to get down or what? I was like, it's time for me to level up. What's up? You know what I mean? And so, like I said, at this age, that's where my mind was at. Like I was glorifying all this life. You know what I'm saying? Anything else, it didn't even matter. Like, I was just so caught up in all of it that it was just my lifestyle, And so we ended up doing initiations. Kenneth got jumped by 2, and they beat him up. He was kind of a smaller guy than me, and they beat him up pretty good. And then when it was my turn, they put 3 people on. Why y'all put 3 on me? Y'all put 2 on him. They said, yeah, you're bigger. All right, cool. So we jumped over this fence, and I'm fighting 3 of them, and I'm doing pretty well. I mean, I'm getting my butt kicked. Don't get me wrong, but I'm throwing hands. I'm handling my business. Well, one of the guys I was fighting was one of the leaders of our gang, and his name was Stump, and he's coming at me, and I hit him so hard, like you could just hear the like echo, and you heard the whole crowd say, ooh, there's a bunch of people that are getting drunk watching this fight, and they all got pissed off when I hit them. And I seen about 20 guys come flying over that fence, and they said, no, I'm getting rained on by about 20 people. I just ball up, and I catch a steel toe to my eyeball, like Rocky Balboa in that scene where you can't even see his eye. That was me in real life. It wasn't makeup. And yeah, I got clicked on, and it was so bad that my nickname was Lumpy. That was my street name, Lumpy. And I ended up going to the hospital behind that. And the cops asked what happened. I told them we stopped at a stop sign somewhere, and a bunch of guys just pulled us out of the car, started beating us up. I lied to them. But I felt stupid that I had voluntarily put myself through that, because I got a lot of people like looking at me like, bro, what happened to you? I don't want to say, oh yeah, I did this on purpose. Like I felt like I felt stupid. So for a while, but rumors started getting out. People started finding out that I had got down, that I was a gang member. And it was crazy about it is like all kinds of rumors started circulating that weren't even true. I was getting credit for stuff that I had nothing to do. I was getting this reputation, and some of it was true. A lot of it wasn't true, and it's like I like to say is that when you get a reputation, you can become a slave to your reputation, because now people know what you're supposed to be about. Now that's what they're expecting from you. You know what I mean? Like, man, let's go ride down with these dudes, or let's like, man, there's a bunch of stupid stuff, right? So how I caught a felon for my first time when I was 17 is I was full blown to this gangbanging. I had already, taken some butt kickings. I've already dealt some butt kickings. And this day I remember my girl had begged me for a time with her, because I was putting my homeboys before anything. I would tell her, so my homeboys come before you. That's just the mentality I had back then. And she asked, I just want one night. I know your homeboys come from me. I just want one night. So we went and watched the movie, came back, and we're watching another movie on VCRs, back when VCR still existed. This is 93. And I get a bang on my door, and I open the door, and it's 2 of my homeboys that apparently they were beefing with some other gang members, and they brought the dudes to my apartment. I'm like, bro, y'all are at my house, bro. Man, come on, man, let's get your guns, man. This and that. I said, bro, y'all are at my apartment, bro. And he's like, they're right there. And I look, and there's a white Jeep outside. I'm like, dude, y'all brought these dudes to my front door? Y'all tripping, dude. So I went and got my sawed off. I used to break into houses and steal guns when I was a kid, because that was, this is what I did. And I walked out to the Jeep, and I had the gun behind my leg. And I said, bro, y'all at my house, dog. No, we don't want you. We don't have no beef with you, man. We're looking, your homeboy. I said, bro, but you're at my house, bro. You know what I mean? And I'm walking up to him, and they're like, man, we don't want to, bro. I said, bro, but I pulled the gun out and I just stuck it in the passenger's face. And right then, a car turned onto the street, and we had a police department like right across the street, pretty much. So I hurried up and hit the gun and walked away, and they took off. And now I got the adrenaline rush coming, and my homie was like, "Oh yeah, let's go chase him. Let's go chase him." I'm like, "Man, nah, dude, let's go chase him, dude." I'm like, all right, you know what? Put the guns up. Cause now I'm kind of like going. They wired me up, right? So we ended up going looking for him. The guns weren't supposed to be in the car, but as soon as we seen them, my homie was like leans out the back passenger window, and he has the sawed off, dude. I grabbed him. No, what are you doing, bro? Like. So we convinced him to stop in the parking lot in the public, and we just jump out the car. I told my girl, just take off, get out of here. I lit the guns in the car, said, get out of here, just go. And so she takes off. You know, we go, we basically start beating these guys up, and they take off. Next thing I know, we're in a parking lot surrounded by witnesses. You know what I'm saying? I'm like just turning in circles, like we're about to just take off running. And I seen a friend who just coincidentally happened to be there. And I tell him, my home was like, yo, come on. I run up to his car, and he locks the door on me. He's like, I don't want no part of this. I don't blame him. I was a little pissed at the time, dude. So I'm like, damn, like we're turning the circles, not knowing what to do. And I hear beep, 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 beep. And I looked a couple parking lots over. My girl pulled in a couple parking lots over. I'm like, y'all, come on. So we hop in the car and we take off and say, y'all just take the back roads. She had put the guns in the front seat. There's a 22 rifle and there's a sawed-off 12 gauge with a pistol grip on it. And we're going to the back roads, and I see a car hauling up behind us, like coming at us. I said, that's a cop. I told my girl, I said, turn right here, because I wanted to try to throw the guns out of the window. It's a big old rifle. I didn't want to throw it right there. So I tried to tell her to turn so I could hurry up and try to throw them out. She locked up on me, kept going straight. All right. So now the cops are behind us. And I'm like, well, I'm going to run. You know what I mean? I said, look, y'all are giving me a ride. My name's Paul Escalante. Y'all don't know me. These are my guns. I'm gonna book it as soon as we get pulled over. All right. Man, as soon as we got pulled over, there's 5 more cop cars. Like, oh, man. So they all got their guns on us. Put your hands, we can see them. This and that. Driver, reach out with your right hand. Passenger, reach. So we all walk backwards. We're laid out on the concrete. And they're just patting us down, looking for weapons or whatever. And I had this ounce of weed on me at the time. And I thought, I was 17. I thought weed was a lot. I didn't know anything about weed at the time. That wasn't really that big of a deal. But I'm worried about having it on me. And the cops, they're sitting there talking. I tell my homie, I'm about to go. I'm about to go. He's like, I said, remember what I told you, Paul Escalante, don't. He's like, all right. I see the flashlight go on the ground past my head toward the car. And then that flashlight goes off the ground into the car. I say, oh, we got some big guns in here, man. Bro, I slapped that concrete, and I was gone. I was off to the races. And them cops were like on me. I could hear everything jiggling on their belts and everything else. I almost get hit by a car running across the street. The funny thing about it is I ran across the street to a house that didn't have a backyard, and I cut in front of these houses. The cops ran out of breath. I outran the cop. I got away. I wasn't that far from it, but I got away. I run in front of these other houses, and I see another house without a fence, and I bust a U-turn, and I come to the backyard, and I'm standing right behind the cops and the car that I just got pulled over in. I'm standing I basically ran a big circle, and I'm standing on the sidewalk right behind them. They don't even know I'm there. I just started walking down the sidewalk. But not all the cops left. Some had to stay back with them and keep their guns on them. So I'm like, I just started walking down the sidewalk. And by that time, my adrenaline had run out. I couldn't even hop a fence. And, I ended up, I stashed the weed under the air conditioner, and I'm just sitting like, I'm on the run now. I'm on the run now. I'm on the run now. And about a half hour later, I had a friend that lived about a mile or two down the road. I thought I was going to get to his house. But every time I tried to go get up, man, spotlights between the houses. I'm like, man, like, next thing I know, I heard, woo, 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 woof. Woo, woo, woof. I'm like, oh, man, please tell me that's a neighborhood dog. I was like, please tell me that's a neighborhood dog. Woo, 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 woo. It kept getting closer and closer. Next thing I know, I saw flashlights from both sides of the house. And I'm like, oh, dude, next thing I know, they're all on me. Like, Mr. Hamilton. They already knew my name. They already knew my name. homeboys didn't even last. They already told me. They already told on me. So the dogs were on leashes, thank God. But they let me out. They were talking crap to me the whole time. It was Deer Park that this happened in, but they had to call Pasadena for their dogs. So I'm talking crap to them about that. They put me in the jail cell in handcuffs for like 2 or 3 hours. My shoulders are killing me. And next thing I know, they called me out. The detectives did, and they sit me down in the office, and they're like, "Mr. Hamilton, we're going to let you go." I'm like, "Really?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're going to let you go." I'm like, "Okay, cool." They're like, "Yeah, your girlfriend's going to jail." I'm like, "What?" Yeah, those guns were in your girlfriend's car. She was driving. Those are her guns. I'm like, no. They're like, yeah, her car, her guns. She was driving. Those are her guns. We're going to let you go. No, those are my guns. They're like, no, those are her guns. I said, look, those are my guns, man. They're like, unless you sign this piece of paper right here claiming that those are your guns, we'll let them go right now. I'm like, well, where do I sign? And that basically what started my life as a felon at 17. I had already had a juvenile when I was for breaking in the house, but so basically when I was 17, I was already a felon. I ended up doing Harris County boot camp in the 10 years deferred adjudicated probation, which I had this guy that was going to trial. He was a convict facing trial. When he heard them trying to offer me that probation, he said, "Look out, youngster. Don't take that probation, man." He said, they offered me 4 years TDC prison at the time, but I didn't know anything about parole. I thought 4 years was 4 years, and I'm trying to get out yesterday. And he's like, don't take that probation. It's just a trap. He goes, "You think you could do good for 10 whole years straight?" I'm a youngster. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I can. Yeah. But so, you don't, that's the thinking that's always got me in trouble. I always thought I knew better. So yeah, I took the probation, went to Harris County boot camp, got out, and I didn't even last, dude. They had me going to probation every day downtown Houston for the first month, Monday through Friday, every day. Then it went from once a week for the second month. So I was going to probation downtown Houston 4 times a month, and then they kicked me out to Baytown. By the time I got to Baytown, I was already on the run. The whole time I was on probation, I was on the run. And this is about the time that I got turned on to drugs, like real drugs. My brother, believe it or not, I was smoking weed. I was doing all the normal stuff, eggs, acid. I didn't really consider those anything serious. Yeah, but I always had this pact with my friends that we would never do any hard drugs. Like that was just a pact that we had. And well, we ended up at this park by where my daughter was, grew up. And me and my cousin and all of them, we're all just smoking weed. And my brother's all standing to the side, all fidgety and everything. And he calls me over there. I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "Hey, bro, you want to try some of this one? What is it?" He's like, "Man, it's cocaine, man." I'm like, "Oh, man, bro." You know what I'm saying? He's like, "Man, try it." And in my mind, the rationalization was, man, you know what? My brother's doing it. Can't be that bad, right? That's how somehow I rationalized. And so I did a couple of bumps. I was high on weed, so it didn't really hit me at first. But like a third bump, it woke me up, and I got it. You know what I mean? I thought, okay, I get it now. And man, I always tell people, drugs always start off fun. For the first month or so, they're fun. And then at some point, it switches over. You're just an addict. You know what I mean? And so for the first few weeks, I was at the fun stage of it. We're just talking our heads off, and everybody's the coolest person you ever met in your whole life. And you know what I'm saying? You're smoking cigarettes, just talking, right? But so that was how cocaine basically is what destroyed me. I say destroyed me, like I became hooked real fast. And that was when I'm talking about, to me, I feel like I was a scum of the earth, and I've done a lot of drugs in my life, but cocaine, just being addicted to cocaine, I never really got into the crack. I tried it a handful of times, but it just wasn't my thing. But so I was hooked on that, and then I got introduced to the needle. See, when I went to prison in '96 for that sawed-off shotgun. I ended up violating probation, and while I was there is when I got introduced to prison, prison gangs, like, because I'm half Mexican, the way my swag, the way I carry myself, people couldn't really tell if I was a white boy or if I was Mexican or what I was basically down to prison representing. So I got approached, and basically the doors were open for me to prospect with the Mexican prison gang. And to me, me and my priorities and me and my, my mind, I thought, oh, this is gangster right here. Like, this is next level. Like, street gang is one thing. This is like college. You know what I mean? So, I like, man, and then like the plugs I was going to have, like just the connections, it was basically a mafia, and I was fascinated with that at the time. And here I am. I had a door being opened up to me to basically to become a prospect.
Can I ask you a question right quick?
What's up?
Well, I mean, I'm listening, man. So this is like, you're just like telling a movie. And like, so I'm thinking like, you beat up that bully. Your first drug was really that you were addicted to attention, the girls and friends like that, that you're watching, the gang movies and the music and the rap and all that stuff. So at this point, as you go into prison and, your first case and everything, like, it doesn't make any sense, but in your mind, it was like you were kind of just living out what you were watching, listening to, and got the attention, and respect probably in some degree. I mean, so like you, even though it was a tough situation, now another door open, you're leveling up, and
well,
I mean,
in my mind, I felt I was.
Yeah, so you were just kind of like living out like what you were drawn to.
Right.
Not to make any excuses for it, but I mean,
No,
still,
there ain't. Well,
like that mentality.
I always say like I'm a chameleon. Like, whatever I could be, whatever, bro. And like, and like I tell people, because I wasn't raised in that street life. I chose it. You know what I mean? Like, and I became it. You know what I mean? Like I said, everybody works at something for long enough, they'll become it, right? I can't sit there and lie to you and tell you, oh yeah, I grew up on government cheese and food stamps. We didn't. My parents were actually hardcore Republicans. They earn, they always believed in earning your own way, right? They didn't believe in handouts. But yeah, so basically, G code, because a lot of my homies that I grew up with, they were all like, gang, either gang members or they lived like just by the code, sold drugs, did drugs or both or whatever. And that was just my whole who I hung out with in the streets of Pasadena, right? And so like to me, this was like a respect thing, but it was like getting even further into it, becoming even more like, I don't know how to say it, like, giving more street kid, I guess you could say. I don't know what my thinking was on it, but like, after seeing the movies, American Me, Blood In, Blood Out, this was like real life. You know what I mean? And I was like, I'm living this out real life, and in my mind, I thought that's what you're supposed to do when you're in prison. Like, because that's just, like I said, I got Down for Life tatted on me. I got Sins of Flesh tatted on me, Wicked Ways, and all this other crazy stuff. My first little tattoo is a little lowrider I had, it's a hook, but in my initials and stuff. And this was like next step. This was like next level for me, right? And so I got down, I prospected with them for about 11 months, almost a year. And basically how my parents kind of found out, well, my mom's not stupid. My dad's super smart, but he's very naive when it comes to this kind of stuff, the street life. He don't get it. You know what I mean? But I was supposed to go home, I think August of 97 or something. But we ended up having a gang war, and I ended up losing some good time and this and this and that. So I lost my discharge date, and they had already bought everything for me, waiting for me to come home. And next thing I know, my mom's coming to see me. It's behind glass, and I lied to her and told her that I just had to handle up. And she's like, "Well, do what you got to do, survive, whatever." So she was a little bit more hip to what's going on. But in '98, I got out. I had a 5-year sentence for that sawed-off shotgun, and I got out in '98. They had hooked me up. They helped us out in our apartment, me and my brother, because he had a bout with drugs and he was doing pretty bad. So they got us an apartment to help us out, put some months on it, this and that. Well, basically, the first thing I did is I got out and I started selling cocaine right at that apartment that they got for me. Yeah. And I hooked up with my homeboys, and I'm doing a bunch of cocaine, dude. I'm like trying to OD over here and selling the rest. And long story short, me and my homeboy ended up chasing the dude out of the apartment for disrespecting me, and I had a hammer, my homeboy had a crowbar. and we're chasing him down the stairs, and it's broad daylight, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And as we're running after him, all of a sudden this dude comes out with a gun, and he's like, "Get on the ground, get on the ground." And at first I thought old boy set us up, that he kind of like came back to get us out there, and he's gonna have somebody shoot us. I thought, he had to do it with a gun. Well, so I jumped on the ground. I looked up. It was a cop that had a badge around his neck, and apparently he was watching my apartment because I had a lot of heat because I was selling a lot of drugs and cocaine at the apartment. And he was just watching it. He seen this go on. He was the only cop there, though. I jumped on the ground. He was up there with my homeboy. He had his gun on my homeboy, like searching him. I look around. There wasn't no other cops. Boom! I get up. I run back up to my apartment, and I locked the door and everything. And I'm like, "We got to flush the dope. We got to flush the dope. We got to flush the dope." When I'm thinking about the drugs. And this girlfriend I had with me, she's like getting rid of all of it, but I had my personal on me. And she like, and they're banging on the door, you know what I mean? And like, I'm trying to go out like Tony Montana. I'm just railing up a big old rail on top of it, like, I'm going to jail. Might as well, I was on parole and everything. I just snort this big old line, and they start kicking the door down. So I grab my girl, I jump in bed with her, and then next thing I know, they kick the door down. You hear footsteps in the apartment, and they snatch my arm up. And I'm in handcuffs that quick. And I kind of passed out. They thought I OD'd or something. But when I woke up, cops were all walking around the apartment. And one of them walked up to me and waved my bag of dope. He's like, "You're screwed." He didn't say screwed. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, man, dude, I'm on parole, just got off, and I'm going back to prison for drugs. So, yeah, and it turned out that my brother was the one that called the cops. He was the one that allowed me to kick down the door. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't talked to my brother in 20 years. I'm over it now, but yeah, me and him haven't talked in 20 years. But yeah, because it's just a double standard. He was into ecstasy. He was selling ecstasy for a little bit, and I'm like, bro, you were doing the same thing I was, but you're gonna tell on me? Double standards, right?
I gotta ask Jason on that. I mean, if the opportunity arose where he like hits you up or something, I mean, yeah. Would you talk to him?
Yeah, I'm over it now.
Right. But
back then, no, I still held grudges. But now I'm a Christian now. That's all over with. You know what I mean? I haven't got to the Christian part yet. We're working on that. we're working on that. All right.
I gotcha. I just had to ask that because I mean that still could happen. So that would be a cool moment and stuff. But we ain't got to that yet. My bad. I just had to jump in there on that.
No, you're good, brother. No, but so yeah, so I ended up getting 4 years for that sentence. I got over a gram, less than 4. It was like an 8-ball because I had like 2 ounces and like my girl flushed that, but I had took like a chunk out. I didn't even know how much it was. I just put it in a baggie and it ended up being like basically an 8-ball. And so I went to prison for 8-ball. So when I was down that time, I did 2.5 on a 4, and I got out. And I'm lying to my mom, my dad, and everybody telling me that I quit the gang, but I didn't quit the gang. I was still a member, And I'm living with them. They're letting me live at their house this time. They gave me multiple chances. And I'm actually working and I'm trying to do the right thing. And that's when I had in my mind that, I'm not going to do drugs, but I can drink and be okay. You know what I mean? The only time that I seen AA back in this time, any kind of recovery, is because parole gave me a paper I had to get signed at a meeting. So that's the only time I'd go. But I didn't believe in God. Higher power, what? Now you lost me as soon as you said higher power. Just sign my paper so I can go. You know what I mean? The whole time I was in the meeting, I was just like this. Waiting to get out of there. And so it's crazy. I had access to, recovery this whole time. And I, didn't, now that I know what I know now, but yeah, so I was just going to get my paper signed anyways. And I had this, this great idea that, well, you know what, I can drink. Drink is legal, and that'll be okay. And I was drinking around safe people, supposedly, friends from like, didn't like doing drugs, didn't like me doing drugs. So I was hanging around them. Well, this guy at their house slides me his phone number while I'm drinking. And he's like, hey, bro, cocaine, X pills, anything you want, I can get it. And he planted that seed in my head. And I had his number. So here I am buzzing. That's why I can't drink. To me, if I drink, it'll lead to everything else. I just choose to leave it all alone. But so I remember one day I had a couple of quarts of Budweiser or whatever, and I gave him a phone call, and I ended up relapsing on cocaine. And, once you do that first bump, that's a wrap. I only got one speed, and that's full blast. Basically, once I do that bump, then I'm going to want to sell drugs. And since I'm selling drugs, I need to get a pistol. And then I got this and that, and I'm affiliated with all my homeboys, this and that. Well, I ended up hooking up with the ex-girlfriend, the one that was in the apartment when I went to prison that one time for the cocaine case. Well, she was a meth head. She turned me on the meth. And once I did that, I found home. Cocaine was no longer a problem in my life. Meth had moved right in. You hear me? And because it lasted longer, this and that. Like I never looked at cocaine again, and I became a meth addict. This is in 2001. So here I am trying to be a meth dealer, running around, and I caught a pistol case. I was on my way to my plug's house, and I had an '84 Camaro, slammed down all this other stuff. And I had a pistol in my passenger seat. This is when you still had CDs in your cars. And well, this dude that gave me some handlebars, and I didn't want them because that second time I went to prison, I was on a bunch of them. I can't remember anything, and I just didn't want to mess with them no more. And this guy wanted to trade them for some stuff I had, and I was like, well, I don't mess with those no more. But he kept trying. Finally, I said, no, you know what? Screw it, give them to me. Yeah, I took them. Next thing I know, I'm waking up to somebody banging on my car window. It's broad daylight. I don't know where I'm at, how I got there. I lift my seat up, and I'm like in the country, and I look outside to what woke me up, and it was a cop. I'm like, oh crap. He opens my door. You all right? I'm like, oh yeah. Like, are you on something? No, sir. I just was tired, so I just pulled over the side of the road to sleep it off. What I ended up doing, I pulled the side of the road, and I pulled right in front of somebody's gate. It was like a country, and I pulled it in front of somebody's gate. They call the laws on me apparently. Well, I had a pistol sitting right there in the passenger seat. So I'm trying to lean forward and block his view, and I'm trying to reach over and slide some CDs over it. Yeah. He saw me doing that. He looked and saw the gun. He's like, oh, crap. He snatched me. He had my arm jacked. It's January. It's cold. I could have killed you. I'm like, what, like that? So, yeah, so I ended up third time to prison. They got me for felony possession of a firearm. And I got 3 years for that, and I did all three of that. That time in prison, though, we had went to war with a rival gang, and I ended up getting confirmed. Which confirmed is when they basically validate who you are in their records or whatever, and they lock you up in SEG and throw away the key. Like once there's enough evidence to prove that you are an active gang member, they put you in SEG, and you are in SEG until you finish your time. If you got a life sentence, like I know guys in the SEG for 30-something, 40-something years in the cell, but I could touch both sides of the cell. I lied to them, told them I wasn't a gang member, but that don't matter. They already knew I was. And so I got SEG that time, and I discharged my 3 in January of 2005. And where I was at, all of our leadership to our gang was there in SEG, because most of our gang leaders are in SEG. So I was connected with some of our big dogs basically, and they gave me some phone numbers to reach out to whenever I hit the world. And so whenever I got out, I had phone numbers to some people that were moving some pretty big weight. And I ended up living in Alvin, which is out here in the suburbs of Houston, a little further out. And because this chick I was dating kind of brought me out there. And I connected with my bros, and there was a lot of people that wanted that particular drug out there in Alvin. And I just got plugged in, and I started moving. And basically, I never even tried. I basically paroled out. I didn't have parole, but I got out, and I was basically living in the dope house, a trap house, they call it now, whatever. So I didn't have a chance. I'm a drug addict in the middle of a trap house. I tried not to get high, but I lasted like 2 weeks before I finally ended up breaking down and getting high. Next thing I know, I'm trying to be a drug dealer again. Like I said, it's not just doing it. I want to be a drug dealer, and then I don't want to get guns. I got 4 gun charges. I got 8 felonies, 4 of them are gun charges. And so I suck at carrying guns. I always get caught. But so that basically 2005 was the year that I got in real deep, did a lot of things. And let me explain something I didn't have God. Like, I want to just express that real quick. I got a daughter that's growing up without me. The first 2 times I've been out of prison, I'd go visit her. Her parents had adopted her, and they didn't let me. Not her grandparents had adopted her, and I wasn't allowed to go over there and see her anymore. So I was like, you know what? Whenever she grows up and she's old enough, she wants me around, I'll be there. That was my attitude. Until then, I'm gonna just do me. And so I was running the streets, and just getting really involved, and just a lot of stuff happened. And basically, And I went to on Christmas Eve of 2005. I went to Dallas to pick up a pound of dope because Houston was dry at the time, and I went with this one cat who was affiliated with with a white gang, and we went up there, to get the pound, and we almost get in a big shootout up there. It was a big misunderstanding. It was a bunch of crazy stuff happened. And what was crazy, my girlfriend at the time told me she didn't want to go. She had a bad feeling. I was just trying to make the money, and I went anyway. And then, yeah, it was a crazy situation, misunderstanding. Guns came out, but it all worked out. So now I'm driving back from Dallas. The guy I was with, he was all barred out. He kept swerving. I'm like, bro, we got guns on us and we got a lot of drugs on us, bro. Let me drive. So he pulled over finally, let me drive. So we're coming back from Dallas to Houston, and it's about 9 o'clock at night. And I remember I pulled over to get gas, and for some reason I took my gun and I put it in my pocket. I don't know why. I don't know why. And I came back in and I got in my car and I'm driving. And as I'm driving, there's a DPS, that's the state patrol, highway patrol here, has his truck pulled over, and it's Christmas Eve. And so I get in the next lane and I pass him up and I'm going, well, that DPS, that cop leaves that truck and comes flying behind me. I'm like, oh crap. So my home was passed out. I'm like, hey dude, we're getting pulled over. I had a pair of Nike Air Max. And the pound was shut. I wear size 12. I got big shoes. Yeah, the pound stuffed it in there, and I chunked in his lap. I said, bro, you know what it is? I wanted him to just get out and take off running. Well, the cop comes from the passenger side, and he's flashing the light through the window. He's like, license registration? I didn't have either one. Where my girlfriend's rental car? I said, you got me. Also, I ain't got either one. Like, what? He comes to my side of the car. Step out of the car. Like, going back to jail, you know what I mean? And I step out. We go to the back, and he's like, where y'all headed? I said, man, it's Christmas time, man. I was trying to get home from Dallas. I'm trying to get home to Houston, man. I said, okay. Who's that in the car with you? I said, it's just a friend of mine. Okay, put your hands on the car. And I said, look, man. I said, before you freak out, man, reach in my front right pocket. Like, well, what do you got in there? I said, man, just reach in there, man. He pulls out my gun. He's like, oh, what you got that for? I was like, man, it's self-protection, bro. He was like, all right, he puts me in handcuffs. And he was like, well, what's your friend in the car? Right about that time, the car that I just got out of, my homeboy jumped in the driver's seat and took off. That cop didn't know what to do. He said, get on the ground. I'm like, he's like, who was that in the car? I was like, I don't know his name. Like, you're lying. You said that was your friend. I said, I don't know his name, bro. I'm lying. I was busted, so I didn't care anymore. I was worried about that pound of dope that was in the car. And so I had given him my brother's name, and my brother's clean. He said, I know you're lying about your name too, man. Where'd you get all them tattoos from? I said, sir, I do tattoos for a living, sir. And he was like, you ain't been to prison? Like, no, sir. He's like, what's your social security number? Well, he got me there. I don't know my brother's social security number. I said, sir, I got this problem. I can't remember numbers, sir. At that time, I knew I was busted, so I didn't even care, right? But anyway, so that was a pistol case. I gave my brother's name. This is kind of the funny part, which I probably shouldn't be doing funny parts, but I'm in the county jail, and they next day they're calling by my real name. Me, whenever they ask who your next of kin is, I always put my mom's name out of habit. So I put my mom's name as next of kin. Well, they called my mom, and they're like, "Yeah, we got your son." They said my brother's name. Yeah, they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, your son's here in jail. His name's Jeremy." And this, like, no, they're not. Like, and they thought he might have a DWI because he drinks a lot. And they're like, yeah, your son that has all the tattoos. Like, oh, the tattoos? No, that's not him. That's my other son. That's how they found out my real name. And so they're calling me by my real name and said, look, it's Christmas Day. You got people trying to bond you out right now. I'm not used to getting bonded out. They said, if you don't do this right now, the judge ain't gonna come back for another 2 days. You're gonna be stuck here. So I went ahead, I filled out all the paperwork with all my real names. Now I had a line about my identity, plus the pistol case, plus dope case, whatever. And I got out. And I ran the streets for another while. Then this dude ended up getting over on me for a quarter ounce of dope. Back then it was like $400 worth of dope. I kind of already been going on for a long time now. But well, this one dude basically sold him some salt. and he stepped on my toes with it because I had been waiting on this dude to come through this whole time. And the dude that I've been waiting on calls me and tells me that this guy sold him salt. And this is a guy that I already had an issue with that he cleaned up. So now I'm mad because I let him make it once, and now he done did it again. So I go looking for this dude, and I'm with my girl, and I got this 45, and I'm in a stolen car with switched plates. And we roll up to this house, and we're looking for him, and all of his friends are like, nah, we don't mess with that dude anymore. So we all know where he lives. And one of the girlfriends, I know where he stays at. I told my girlfriend, hey, go with her and find out where he stays at. And I'm staying there just in case he shows up. And they're gone. They come back. I'm like, all right, man. I said, yeah, I don't let them know I'm looking for him. Well, I'm just going to go look at the house. I don't plan on doing anything right then. And I'm driving by the house. And when I'm driving by the house, somebody comes out like with their hands up, like, what's up? What's up? And I had the pistol sitting on my lap. And when I seen the dude come out, I was with my girlfriend at the time. I stopped. I said, my trip is that dude talking, running his mouth. She's like, yeah, he's running his mouth. So I backed up, stuck the gun out the car, and I popped out 3 shots at him. As soon as he saw the gun, he hit the ground, and he just started low crawling back into the house. And I just threw the gun in my passenger in my lap, and that was it. I thought that they understood what it was. They were going to keep it gangster. They were going to keep their mouth shut. I was wrong, okay? And it wasn't like I'm still running around doing whatever I do. And a girlfriend of mine that I used to hang out with way back in the 90s, she calls me out of the blue. Hey, what's up? I'm like, hey, yeah, how you doing? This and that. She's like, I saw you in the newspaper. Newspaper? What are you talking about? She's like, yes, it's you're the Crime Stoppers. I was like, oh, no. Are you serious? She was like, yeah, it said something about a drive-by shooting and this. And I was like, oh, great. Then what I found out that people that I'd been messing with had knew about the article and didn't tell me about it. Like they're going to try to cash in on me or something. You know what I mean? I was in Louisiana the following day on the run, and I ended up getting pulled over by a state trooper there. But that time I had a fake ID, I had a fake identity, and I had a stolen car again. I used to mess with stolen cars back then. With switch plate on it. So the car came back clean and everything, but I could not find my fake license. And I had my friend's mom and her friend with me. Their car broke down, which is why I was on the road. I went to go pick them up. And I couldn't run. I was in a souped up Mustang. I couldn't run because I had my friend's mom with me. And the cop, you know what I'm saying, he tells me to get out of the car and bring my license. I'm like, hey, bro, I can't find my license. I'm looking for it. I get to looking for it. He calls me away from the car. He says, can I search the car? I'm like, yeah, I don't have anything in it. I didn't think. Well, I had got this car from some friends where they left the syringe in it, and he found a syringe. And so he puts me in handcuffs. Well, let me go back. When I was on the run, we went to a casino in Louisiana for a little bit. And that girl that saw the article in the newspaper had emailed it to me. And my girlfriend had not seen the article. So I made the smartest decision ever. And I went downstairs and I printed it out. It's basically, I just printed out my arrest warrant. This is some America's dumbest criminal stuff right here. Okay. And I took it back upstairs and I showed it to her. I let her read it. Well, somehow, some way, that piece of paper ends up getting folded up. And now we're writing phone numbers and stuff on the back. Well, it migrates to the glove box, forgotten about. It's the Crime Stoppers article. It's got a picture of my face on it, what I wanted for, all that. It's just a forgotten about piece of paper in the glove box. And this is like, I don't know how far along, but well, this cop, he has me in handcuffs. He said, I'll probably just write you a ticket for that syringe because it really wasn't mine because the whole time I was on the run, we couldn't find any dope out there in Louisiana. And we could. It was $100, $20. It was too expensive. So I was just basically smoking weed out there. And, well, he's like, I'll probably just write you a ticket. I said, cool. So he keeps searching the car, man. He'll go back and he come back and search the car again. Like, what's this dude doing? Finally, I see him go in the glove box. And then I see him pull a piece of paper out and I see him unfold it. And he's reading this paper and he's really interested in this piece of paper. And I'm like, what's this dude reading, man? Why? And then I remembered, oh, no, the freaking Crime Stoppers article. And he looks at me. He's like, is this you? It's got my picture right there. No, sir. No, sir. He puts it back in his pocket, gets the search, and I'm like, man, please forget about this piece of paper, man. But, yeah, he didn't. You know, he walked up to me, he pulled it out. Oh, yeah, I can see that's you. I see the chair drop. Well, it looked like you ain't going anywhere. 13 years later, I got out of prison. Yeah, I got 15 years for that. But so when I went to prison that time, they called me off the bus straight to SEG. I had a 15-year sentence. See, they were offering me 40 years. When I first went to Harris County, they pulled me in the courtroom. They offered me 40 years. And that's what they usually do. They want to scare you into signing what they really want you to sign for. Like, for example, they really wanted me to sign for 25. Scare me with 40, 25 sounds like a whole lot better, right? But I wasn't stupid. I knew the game. I said, look, I'm not signing for 40. I'm not signing for 25. Well, let's go to trial. I knew I didn't have a chance to trial, but I was just bluffing. And we went back and forth for a while. And she wasn't even trying to give me any less time. Yeah, she wasn't trying to give me less time. She was like, well, you said you're not going to sign for 25, so I'm not going to try to help you. I'm like, well, give me less than 25. You're habitual. They're not going to give you less than 25. So I was like, all right, screw it. Let's go. And I tried to fire my lawyer. The judge just screamed at me. Me and that judge are friends, by the way, now. The judge screamed at me and said, I'm tired of inmates thinking y'all running things, this and that. She's a perfectly competent lawyer. Get out of my face. So I thought, wow, now I got to go to trial with this lawyer. And finally, they got down to 15 years. And she said, look, if you don't take this 15, you're going to go to trial, you're going to lose, and they're going to give you 50 years. This is my lawyer telling me this. And I was 30 years old at the time. And I looked down at that piece of paper. I thought, I'll be 45 if I discharge. I'll have one last shot at life. All right, come on, I'll sign it. And I signed it. And I had to do 7.5 just to come up for parole. So that was 7.5 dead time I was going to have to do just to come up for parole. So, yeah, I went to the prison, and I ended up being the speaker for my people in SEG back there. And I want to say that, like, I was so far gone that I thought, you know what, if I'm going to be a criminal, if I'm going to be this, I'm going to be the best criminal, the best gamer. I never imagined that I'd be where I'm at today. I was just so, the gang life, the drugs, all that was my identity. The whole time I was there, I debated God. I just talked, I just told war stories. I thought I'm a lifer. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know any better. I didn't think that there was anything better for me. And there's a couple of things that turned the thing for me. And when my daughter was 13, she was born in 95. So that'd have been what? 2008. She turned 13, and she wrote me a letter. And I was in SEG, like I told you. Mail is a big thing in SEG, right? In jail period, but especially SEG, because you by yourself in the cell. It's lonely in there, bro. And I was happy. I'm like, man, I got a letter from my daughter, man. Hell yeah. Like, I'm telling my neighbors, hey, I got a letter from my daughter, man. My daughter wrote me. And then I read it. And my daughter, she checked me, man. One thing I severely did was I severely underestimated the intelligence of a kid. Like, I thought she was just living life with her friends and her grandparents and not really even worried about dad. And, that I was wrong. She was like, Dad, because I was sending her handkerchiefs, portraits, stuff you do for your kids when you're locked up. And she's like, Dad, I know you say you love me, but do you really? She's like, do you really? She's like, if you were to get out today, would you come home to me or would you go run with your homeboys in the street? Because up until that point, I always chose my homeboys in the street, which is going to bring me to the point that I would like to hit on: loyalty. Loyalty should be a good quality, right? But I'm gonna say loyalty is a double-edged sword, because loyalty could be your worst enemies when you're loyal to the wrong people. Here I am being loyal to a gang, being loyal to people in the streets. When I got a daughter growing up without me, I got parents worried about their son, and here I am trying to play gangster. You know what I mean? Not like, without even a second thought, not even thinking about it. You know what I mean? And that opened my eyes. Like, finally, it kind of like let me see from an outside perspective, like what I was doing. I was so absorbed in what I had in front of my face that it gave me a perspective from from outside, like, what am I doing, man? And see, the thing is, though, I was that dude that preached that down for life, and being an ex-gamer had a stigma about it. Like, people looked at them like they're scum of the earth because they sold out on their own gang, the one they committed to. Like, and I was like, man, like, I didn't want to be seen that way. And that pride, that ego, and just that loyalty had me stuck on stupid basically for a long time. But a part of it, what helped me finally quit the gang is I wrote 2 books when I was in prison, and I circulated them around. They're not published, but what happened is people were reading the books I wrote that were basically about gang life, for fiction accounts of gang life. And they're like, "Bro, you wrote this?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Bro, this is good. Why aren't you published?" So now it got me fantasizing about a life outside of gang life. Like, what if I could be good at this? Like, what if I could be successful at this? I started thinking out something else beside gang life. How can both be compatible? How can I, if I end up being successful at writing, how can I do that and be a gang member? You can't. You got to choose one, right? And so basically, after like a lot of hard thinking, I finally said I'm done. Like, and I was speaking for the gang I was with at the time, so I had to write all the other families and tell them, "Look, I'm done. I don't rip that no more. I'm done. I'm sliding back." And then I had to write to my own homeboys that I ran with. Hey, y'all, I'm throwing in the towel. I'm done. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. We were in SEG, so no, they couldn't get to me. No, and if they could, they would have. You know what I mean? But I went to this program called the grad program, Gang Renouncing and Disassociation, and it gets the gang tag off of you. And they basically, I integrated back into population. And after I did that, I made parole. I was 43 when I made parole. I was 30 years old when I went in. I was 43 when I got out. My daughter was 10 years old when I went in. She was 23 when I got out, and I was a grandpa. All my friends looked like their parents. You know, all my friends looked like their parents. There wasn't no such thing as Facebook. MySpace was brand new when I went to prison. There wasn't none of these. There was a flip phone. You know, I got out to a different world. You know what I mean? And I wasn't gangbanging no more. So that was the biggest. You know, I was always worried about the stigma of being an ex-gang member. But man, when I made that decision, it was the best decision I had made in my adult life, giving up the gang life. Because whenever you become a gang member, bro, you adopt all of their baggage. You adopt a whole new host of enemies that you didn't used to have. but you become a gang member, now all their enemies are now your enemies. So now you got enemies that you just inherited, right? So sliding back was like the best decision. I still wasn't there with God yet. I got out, you know, I was at a halfway house, and I started, we were picking up trash on the side of the road at this halfway house. I started dating this girl that was way, way younger than me. I was 43. She was in her 20s. And I ended up moving in with her. Yeah, I wasn't a gamer no more. I was still making dumb decisions. And it got toxic pretty quick. And I'm like crazy toxic. And I stayed with her for like a year. She was a heroin addict in recovery. She was taking Suboxones, doing MAT, medically assisted, whatever you call it, treatment. And well, she ended up relapsing. And I had been clean since I've been out of prison. I had been clean for like about a little over a year, something like that. And when she relapsed, she ended up ODing and she died. But somebody brought her back with Narcan. And I couldn't stand her because it was toxic, but I wasn't going to let her die. You know what I mean? So I started hanging around her just so she wouldn't die, as crazy as that sounds. And she had I'm a meth addict, and she had some meth around too. So my 45th birthday was coming up, and I said, you know what? I'm going to get high on my 45th birthday. Somehow, some way, I rationalized I was going to get high on my 45th birthday. And I did that. And I celebrated my 45th birthday every day for 2 years straight. And like I tell you, I had a Lexus I had bought with legitimate money. You know, all the drugs I ever sold in my life, never had a Lexus. You know, it was an IS 250. It was 2006, pearl white. I loved it. Nice car. And I ended up losing that car to my addiction. And I ended up on a bicycle. And I tell people I traded my Lexus in for a Huffy. And I ended up losing my apartment. And everything was just going. I couldn't even keep a phone. Like, I'm having to get just somebody's phone and just plug into Wi-Fi wherever I'm going to get any kind of service. Like, it was just, bro, I've hit some lows before, but I've never hit a low like this before. Like, the game had changed. Heroin was everywhere. That was a new thing to me. You know, back then you never seen it. You know, when I got out 13 years later, everybody was strung out on heroin. Luckily, I never messed with it. You know, and it was just a different world, man. And I'm sitting there trying to survive. Like when I first lost my job because I relapsed, I ended up giving a fake doctor's note, and they called the phone number on there, and it was to a school. So they fired me, and I had my Lexus. So I'm trying to sell drugs to keep up my Lexus payments. Yeah, and it's like they say, a drug addict trying to sell drugs is like a monkey trying to sell bananas. You know what I mean? It's not happening, right? And yeah, so I lost all that, and I ended up on a bicycle. Man, I hit a whole new low. Like, I mean, it got so bad. I was staying in trap houses, and eventually, I was just straight up homeless. Like, I was this close to being on the corner panhandling. You know what I mean? And I ended up getting locked up. You know, I sold to an undercover cop, less than the ground. And while I was there in the county, I told myself for 2 months straight, dude, I'm gonna get back to where I was when I got out of prison, where I was sober-ish. You know, yeah, I didn't have God. God's still not on my radar, y'all. And let me tell y'all about this three series sequence of events that happened that got me started believing in something outside of what I could see, taste, feel, and touch. I had these three things happen to me right there before I got locked up. One, I was on a bicycle and I just dropped the head, like just the front tire off the curve and face planted just that quick. It felt like some force shoved me to the ground. And I don't believe in all that kind of stuff. I don't believe in that way, but it just happened so quickly. I got quick reflexes, and I face planted, and I had a concussion, leaking eyebrow, thought I knocked some teeth loose, and I had to ride my bike all the way home like that. And then not even 6 hours later, the girl I was dating, sister ODs on some heroin. Her girlfriend, she was a lesbian, calling my name. I don't want to get involved because they usually get in fights. I didn't want to be involved in that. And she opens the door and she's laid out, and I'm having to do CPR on her. Well, my reward for that was I got shot at and I got attacked with a baseball bat 8 hours after I slammed my face against concrete. And not even like probably 5 days later, I'm riding a bicycle down the street, like the side of this highway, and I'm going to gamble, right? And I feel this annoying feeling on my shirt right here, like on my stomach, and I look down and I got campfire size flames shooting off my shirt. I'm on fire. I'm like literally on fire. I'm like, oh crap, you know what I mean? And I fall down. I'm not thinking stop, drop, and roll, right? I just grab the shirts, I take them off. You know, it kind of burns my face. I got pictures of all that, and them shirts are just on fire. And I thought, dude, in my mind, well, this is what I thought was happening. Somebody had a voodoo doll in my image, and they were dragging me through it. That's when I started thinking something beyond reality existed. You know, and so I get locked up and I get out. The whole time I was in for 63 days that time. And I was like, look, I'm done with drugs. I need to get back to where I was when I first got out of prison, because when I got out of prison, when I had that job, when I got the Lexus, that was the most responsible I had ever been in my adult life. I was paying bills. I was paying the car note, paying insurance, paying phone bill. I was stable. And I remember when I was dealing with all that, I was like, I'm doing it now. There was still something missing. But I didn't understand what I was missing, right? And so after 63 days of telling myself I wasn't going to get high no more and stuck a needle no more on the first day I got out of jail. And I was like, I can't figure this thing out. Like, this is just what I am. This is just who I am. And I was having this pity party for myself. And I went to this girl's room to get high. And then I went to this apartment complex across the street with my niece and them. Then I went back to that room. And when I went back to that room, that girl wasn't there no more. And thank God she wasn't there no more, because she'd have been there. I wouldn't be here right now. I waited in front of her room for about an hour for her to get back. I didn't have nowhere to go. I'm homeless. I just got out of jail. I ain't got nowhere to go. And I'm just standing there in front of her room. Finally, I just take off walking down 45. And I see Walmart. It was May 2022. It was hot outside. I'm just trying to get out of the sun at this time. So I go inside that Walmart. I'm sitting in that Walmart for about an hour. I'm just drinking Cokes. Like I said, I pay for one Coke and drink about $20 worth of Coke. And I'm getting looked at funny because I just been sitting in there. I feel like a bum now. And I'm like, where am I going to go? Like, I don't want to deal with these same grimy people in the streets. I'm done. I'm just done, bro. And finally, I just feeling shame. I stepped outside. I just want to get out of there. And I look at the parking lot. I'm like, where am I going to go? Like, I ain't got nowhere to go. So I just stand out to the side of the entrance of Walmart, and I'm just looking at the parking lot, lost. I ain't got nothing. I ain't got nowhere. And right around this time, this girl steps up to me, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "You talking to me? Like, I'm not just used to, people just don't walk up to me like that." And she's like, "Yeah, yeah." She's like, "Are you hungry?" Yeah, yeah. I'm homeless. I can eat, right? She's like, "Okay, I made this breakfast burritos." You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, burritos in front of Walmart, weird but cool. So she gives me one and I'm eating it. She's like, "You want another one?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay, well, how are you with God?" I thought, oh, here we go. Here we go. I said, the burritos weren't free, right? And I told her straight up, I said, "Look, you don't want to talk to me about God." I said, "I don't believe in God." And then she told me, she goes, "Well, you know what? God believes in you." And I was like, man, you know, usually I would turn this conversation around. I say, "Look, I don't believe, go talk to somebody else, whatever." I respectfully decline. But at this time, at this moment, I had finally had this epiphany, this just a realization that, man, Jason, everything that you've done, every choice that you made, every decision that you made got you exactly where you're at right now. Homeless in front of a Walmart with just the clothes on your back and nothing to show for it but burned relationships and an extensive criminal record. That was the best your thinking can do. And I like to tell people, I had exhausted my self will. I had rode my self will all the way to the end, and that was the best it got me in front of a Walmart, homeless, hungry. You know what I mean? That was the best I could do for myself. So when she started talking about Jesus, I was like, you know what? What's up? Talk to me about what's up. Talk to me about Jesus. God met me where I was at. He knew I was willing to listen this time. But at the time, but at first I told her, I said, "Look, if I'm gonna pray for these kids that are like, 5 years old fighting cancer, girls being sold into sex trafficking. Like, look, they're young and they haven't had a chance at life. I'm 46 years old. I had my chance at life and look what I did with it. I kind of felt like I deserved what I was getting. Like, I didn't deserve anything better." And she told me that, you know what, all God's children deserve his grace and mercy, but you have to ask. I was like, no, so we prayed and we prayed, and there's four ladies and this little boy. The girl that walked up to me, her name was Helena. And she, they were going to leave. They were doing this convention called City Quake, where they go out to Walmart or just in the streets and they pray for people. And two other ladies came out, like, "Okay, we're ready to leave. We're leaving." She's like, "Okay." So they're like, "All right, we're going to leave. We're going to pray for you, this and that." I'm like, "All right, thank you, thank you." And then they all started walking off. Helena had went in Walmart and got me a $200 gift card, and I'm a drug addict. Yeah, my mom was probably thinking about how I can get drugs out of this, right? But she turned around and gave me an offer that saved my life. She turned around and she's like, "Well, you know what? We're going to church. Would you like to come to church with us?" I'm like, "Let me check my schedule real quick. I got some things lined up. I didn't have anything lined up." And I was like, "Yes, please. Let's go to church." And they took me to church. And I remember just the instant. I mean, I was just a bum in the street pretty much. And then in church, all of a sudden, people walking up to me, hugging me, shaking my hand, greeting me. I just felt a sense of peace there at the church, and they got me on the stage and I'm telling my testimony about how I just met these ladies and I don't have an ID and all this stuff. I said, "Look, if I work, I don't ain't got an ID, man. If y'all want y'all lawn mowed or whatever, I'll do whatever to earn my money, this and that." And when I came off the stage, these guys pulled me into the hallway and started talking about being saved. And there's two other guys there from a wheelhouse, which is a recovery center in Deer Park. And they're like, "Look, are you willing to go to any lengths to get sober?" I was like, "Yes, please." They're like, "Have you heard of the wheelhouse?" I had done community service there when I was 18. They're like, "It's just a place for drunks. It ain't for me, right?" But yeah, they're like, if we can get you in, you'll go. I was like, yes, please. So I got saved that day. I did the sinner's prayer. I said it, and that night I was in a recovery center, and that was on May 21st, 2022, and I've been sober since that day. All right, so now I want a little. How much time we got?
At least half an hour.
Okay, because I gave y'all a little over an hour of just the problem, right? So now I'm learning how to be sober. I'm 46 years old. I'm at the wheelhouse. There's structure there. You know, I got saved before I got there, so I already knew who my higher power is. And I'm learning, AA meetings, the big book, the steps. I'm learning all this. And what I tell people is what the steps did for me is they taught me how to grow up. Because for a long time, I was a 30, 40 something year old teenager. I was just, I wasn't a responsible person. I did not make, responsible decisions. I was that one guy that nobody ever thought would get right. People like would never thought that, like, dude, I've had people tell me, hey, bro, I never thought that you'd get right. Like, I'm not trying to be rude or nothing, but they tell me straight up, I just thought you were going to die in prison. And for good reason, because at the time that's who I was, right? But so I got saved. I'm still using the same language, still listening to the same music, still watching the same movies, still lusting, but I'm saved, right? And I'm telling everybody, hey, Jesus, all about Jesus, but in the same sentence, I'm probably dropping F-bombs and everything else. And I didn't understand the sanctification process, right? Like I didn't, I'd been denying Jesus my whole life, so I really didn't understand the commitment that I just made when I got saved, right? And I started working for a company called Spike Electric Controls, and the guy there is a solid Christian. He's a second chance employer. He does, like, he saw me at church. He saw me get baptized. He was asking my roommate who I was, and I ended up working there. And then from there, they do prison ministry. Kairos prison ministry, and I didn't understand what my purpose was. I didn't understand how I can do this Christian thing, what I had to offer. You know what I mean? Like I didn't understand any of that. Because I'm a new Christian, right? I'm still, like I said, I'm still using foul language, and this one guy basically checks me on listening to the same music that I was listening to before. And he basically said it was satanic music. I'm like, come on, dude, that's a little extreme, bro. And I asked another friend, this guy's trying to tell me that this music's satanic. And they're like, well, he kind of has a point. I'm like, what? He's like, everything you do is supposed to glorify God. And I didn't understand that concept at the time, right? Everything, what you mean? Everything, like, yeah, everything you do is supposed to glorify God. So after he told me that, I'm still listening to the music, but now I'm hearing my music. And I'm listening to the lyrics to that music. And I finally had to ask myself a question. Can I say I'm a Christian and listen to this? And slowly but surely, my music started cleaning up. My language started cleaning up. The people I'm hanging around with started cleaning up. Like the sanctification, obviously, it's something that you'll continue to do till you die. But, and then prison ministry got thrown on my lap. You know what I mean? And now I started understanding purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like I had done all this time in prison. I can communicate with those guys on the inside fluently. I speak their language fluently. And when it dropped in my lap, I looked up at God and I'm like, okay, God, I got you. I understand. You know what I'm saying? And I've done 5 prison ministries now. I'm lined up to do 6, 7, and 8 by the end of this year. While I was doing the prison ministry, there's a woman named Carmen that does homeless ministry. She goes and feeds the homeless. And I told her that I'd been homeless before, that I'd like to participate in that. God opened up another door for me. And now I've been doing it for a couple of years now, but every first month of the first Saturday of the month, we go to Spring, which is about an hour from where I live, and we load up with some trucks and we're taking food under bridges. Because guess who's been homeless? Guess who's been a prisoner? And then I work with drug addicts, but at my job now, I'm a safety I'm an occupational health and safety specialist. You know, me with 8 felonies. You know, I'm the safety guy at work. I'm the guy that holds you accountable for not wearing your safety glasses. I'm basically the police at work. You know what I mean? And it's just funny, but just everything's come together now. I have a good relationship with my parents now. You know, they live by the prisons in Huntsville, wherever I go to prison ministry, I go stay with them whenever I go to the prison ministry. My daughter got married at their house, and I got to walk my daughter down the aisle. You know, I got to be there for that. My daughter just celebrated yesterday 5 years of recovery. You know, I got to be there for that. You know, the biggest thing is that I'm present today. That I'm present. That you know, my grandkids, they don't know nothing about all that. The whole testimony I'm just giving y'all, they don't know nothing about that. They just know that they got a cool ass grandpa with a bunch of tattoos. You know what I'm saying? Like that's they know me. You know, my youngest calls me Aunt Paul. You can't say Grandpa yet. You know, I'm like a walking jungle gym when I walk into my daughter's house. You know, me and my daughter have a podcast called From Heathen to Heaven, which I guess I could plug here, right? From Heathen to Heaven, the podcast on YouTube. We have our own website, From Heathen, the number 2 Heaven. That's our website. We've been putting our podcast on there also. Um, you know, we have a Facebook group called From Heathen to Heaven, and it's basically my passion now is Christ-based recovery. You know, my issue with that, you know, is because whenever you just choose a higher power, I've heard people say, "Well, my higher power don't care if I cuss, just as long as I don't get high." Okay, well then, what's going to be next? My higher power don't care if I sleep around with multiple girls, just as long as I don't get high. Well, you know what? My higher power don't care if I do all of that and do this, just as long as I don't get high. You know what I mean? Next thing you know, your higher power's going you know, my higher power said I can drink just as long as I don't do a bump. You know what I mean? Like, because you're not serving a real God. You're serving a God that you're making up, and you're giving the words to. You are your own higher power. That's why I don't subscribe to a higher power of your own understanding. I subscribe to Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? And you know, there's a whole book. You know, you got the big book. Well, you know, a lot of what's out of the big book came from the Bible. You know what I mean? A lot of those, you know, the steps are, you know, originated from the Bible. So, you know, people want to take Jesus out of it. You know, I wear this hat to an AA meeting. I got my Jesus T-shirts. I represent Jesus wherever I go. You know, I used to represent that gang life. Now I represent Jesus everywhere I go. You know what I mean? I want you know, people to know you don't have to be ashamed to be a Christian, or you don't have to be ashamed to rep Jesus, man. Jesus saved my life, and I'm gonna scream that till I die. Period. So yeah, if you look at the life I was just telling you about, look at the life I live today. It's crazy. And then I'm looking at my girlfriend over here, who I just explained who I was, right? I'm dating a family attorney. Only God. She would have never looked my way if it wasn't for Jesus. She's an awesome person. The only thing, like I said, only Jesus could have made that one happen for real. Definitely an answered prayer. But yeah, it's just insane the life I have today.
Man. Oh gosh. Yeah, he's God has a sense of humor, you know, as well. I mean, yeah, you couldn't have probably, you know, drew that one up, but I mean, you're in the position now that he's you know, always had written for you. You know, I mean, so you know, you shouldn't be surprised by really anything, but just grateful, you know.
Yes.
You might have. Can I hit you with a couple of questions? They can just be quick answers.
No, you're fine. Come on.
I just wrote a few down as you were telling everything. Did your I don't know if you got the answers to these, but I just wrote them down. Did your dad ever confront you about the pizza to the face? I mean, come on.
Well, I'm gonna give you a quick rundown on that. I mean, my dad was real strict back then. Like, basically, I asked my mom. We had pizza that night for dinner, and I asked my mom, can I get something to eat? She's like, yeah, grab some of the pizza. Cool. I get some pizza, put it in the microwave. My dad, being my dad, comes in there. That's my lunch for tomorrow. Put it back. I'm like, Dad, Mom just said I could have it. I'm heating it up. That's my lunch for tomorrow. Put it back. And this was just constant. It was just a thing with my dad. He was just an instigator. He like just started a lot of crap. Like he had no reason to start that crap. You know what I mean? Like he was just starting a fight. And finally, I pulled it out of the microwave. Like, you want this pizza back, Dad? You know what I mean? He's like, yeah. I just grabbed a hot slice and I just smacked him in the face with it. Like, what's up? You know, like I said, you know, he was a big guy at the time. You know, he would have mopped the floor with me, but I was just so fed up. I didn't care. You know what I mean? I was calling him out. Went to the backyard. He came out there to fight me at first, and then he's like, I'm not going to fight you. And like, you know, and then he ended up kicking me out of the house. Said, just close on your back. All that other stuff belongs to us. We bought it. I'm like, oh man. So that's basically when I started living in the street, like living on couches and living with homeboys. And that's really when I started getting involved with all the gang stuff. Like, because I was basically living on their couches, you know what I mean? But yeah, we almost got into it, but yeah, he let me make it.
You had a thing with the bullies and stuff in school. I mean, did you kind of look at your dad as being sort of bullyish to a certain extent? So you're like, all right, I clocked that kid at the school. I'm gonna slap my dad.
That kid got all the frustration I had with my dad, dude.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot of the anger I had because I was such a laid back kid. I really was, believe it or not. But a lot of the anger I had was toward my dad. You know what I'm saying? Me and him get along great now. You know, age has chilled us both out, but we couldn't be in a room together more than 20 minutes without getting into it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And yeah, because he know how to hit my buttons, man. And but now we got a great relationship, you know. And one of the greatest parts of my story, you know, is my mom, they're seeing my story. Because that, you know, they knew me. I did 21 years in prison. You know, they were getting tired of it, like, you know, because, you know, they were like one of the ones that probably thought I'd never get right.
Sure.
Next thing I know, I'm staying at their house while I'm doing prison ministry. They see the change, and my mom started asking me questions about Jesus.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I said, okay, you know what, you know, and so I got to go with them to church like a couple of months ago. For the first time in over like 25 years. First time they've been to church, you know what I mean? And now they go to that church regularly. And they're doing events like my girlfriend right here and my daughter, and they celebrated their 50th anniversary not long ago. And we went and spent the night up there, and the next day we went to church with them, you know, the whole family. And that's like one of the best parts of my story.
Man.
Dad are in church now. You know what I mean? Like they weren't believers. You never heard God in my house. My dad was raised Catholic, but you know, you never heard about God in my house. You know what I mean? And now they go to church every Sunday.
It's amazing. I mean, they say amends is like, you know, change behavior. That's repentance too, not just being like, I'm sorry for this, but changing, you know, changing the sin. So, I mean, as far as making amends to your mom or dad and all, I mean, I think you can check that one off the list. I mean, now that they're going to church and everything, that's the fruits of change behavior. Right. And you being that example, that's an awesome story for sure on that one. Man, praise God. Here's one I don't know if I should even ask this, but I just when you got initiated into the gang, and you said you know, clocked the leader, the gang leader. How'd that go with him? Like, what did he think of that later on? Did he ever come up to you?
Hey, I just lost you for like the last 2 minutes. I didn't hear anything you just said.
Oh, so am I back now?
Yeah, you're back now. The screen froze up on me for a little bit.
It's all good. I was just talking about making amends and change behavior, and it's just that's being shown out through the fruits of, you know, you having an impact on your mom and dad to get them in church and everything. So I just thought that was beautiful. I was talking about this question here where I was kind of like iffy on asking, but I'm going to do it anyway. When you got initiated into the gang and you say you clocked the leader of that gang. What did he ever end up saying about that? Was he just kind of hush hush? Because obviously it made a mark on him. So he had a.
Well, he okay. Look, he understood what it was. See, like, okay, when I
wasn't expecting that though, probably.
When we started fighting, there was 3 of them, and there was one guy named G-Ride that was like holding the clock, the watch. And they said, go. And then we're going at it. There's this one of the guys I was fighting, supposedly was a black belt, and he was the main one I was worried about. And so I'm attacking him, just trying to and it turns out that was a lie because I'm beating him up pretty good. And I'm getting beat up as I'm beating him up. And then I end up on the ground, and they're like, no, toe to toe, toe to toe. So we get back on our feet. And I'm checking myself. I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like, not too bad, And then we start going at it again. And the other two are coming at me. And like, I'm kind of falling toward the ground. And I just, bam, I hit him pretty hard. And it echoed through like you can hear it. And I could see people jumping over that fence as I'm going to the ground. They said, no, I'm getting rained on. I'm getting rained on. And like, I remember I unblocked my face. And I got kicked with steel toe on my face. I covered myself up, and I had my eyes were out of there. And but what they started fighting people off of me because those guys were wrong. They weren't supposed to be doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that.
So I went to the hospital, like I told you, they were there at the hospital waiting for me. They apologized, said, man, it was messed up, that shouldn't have happened, because everybody was all drunk. We were having a kegger, and everybody just got all wired up and just felt like fighting, I guess, right? And so me and him, we had understanding right away that he understood it was initiation. He got the best of me anyway. That's one good pop I got on him. But, we at the time, like, they had a lot of respect for me for dealing with all that. Like I said, they even waited for me, because I went to the hospital, because like I said, my eye was like, bro, retarded, like, like I said, like Rocky in that movie, like when he had the eyes closed, just like that. That's how bad it looked. Like I said, it looked so bad that I couldn't tell people that I voluntarily put myself through that. I was lying and just saying I got jumped for a little bit, but people started hearing what really happened. I was like, I got clicked in, this and that, but I'm surprised, man. I'm just, I can't, it's a blessing that I'm even here. All the stupid decisions I've ever made.
Well, I mean, extra question on top of that: did you ever have to participate in the, what do you call it, the clicking in of other prospects?
I've done my dirt. Yeah,
okay,
I've done my dirt.
Which do you prefer?
I'd rather deliver than receive. If you got people telling you that they've never lost a fight or they've never gotten their butts kicked, I'm like, bro, you weren't out there,
right?
Even the baddest ones, they're gonna get their butt kicked every once in a while.
I like how you said it. Well, it made a lot of sense when you were like, man, when you get into these gangs and this lifestyle, you're like inheriting detrimentally, like all the beef, all the rivalries, all the drama from all whoever's in there. And I don't know if that goes through a lot of people's heads, when they start out in the gangs, they're like, oh, this is gonna be cool. I'm gonna belong to something, have some protection, some friends. But you were like, well, you get all the negative, everything negative too, you're buying into, because like it was a big part of your testimony for me when I'm just listening, like you're chilling, with your girl, watching movies one night. She's just asking for one night a week. You're watching a movie, then bang, bang, bang. Now we got some gang stuff to go do. And you were just kind of like, I'm kind of just chilling tonight. What's the big, like, what was the big deal that you had to go do all that? Like, I mean, I know it was expected of you, but like, what was
it's what I told you, loyalty.
Yeah.
Like I told you, when I say about your reputation, you become a slave to it. You know what I mean? Like, I was known for carrying guns. I used to break into houses and steal guns when I was a kid. Like, and so they knew I had guns, and they knew I was stupid. What I mean? Like, and so they basically knew, when something like that happens. And I had actually committed to my girl because she basically begged me to just have one night. You know what I mean? And I really started thinking about how I was kind of doing her bad, like always putting her on the back burner, doing everything else. And so I was actually doing something with her. And then they come banging on the door, and they had the guys that were chasing them were right there in front of the apartment.
Yeah.
They brought them. They like, I guess they chased them. They brought them right to my apartment. You know what I mean? I'm like, bro, you know what I mean? Like, come on, bro, for real, y'all brought them to my apartment. And then,
right. I mean, in all seriousness, you weren't asking for none of that, though.
No,
like, you weren't signing up for that stuff. Like, if it's movie night, keep it away from me.
I wouldn't. No, that they brought that to me, bro. And what was crazy is that I helped them out, and they told on me.
Loyalty, huh?
Yeah. I helped them out, and they told on me. Like by the time they were handcuffing me, they already knew my real name. I gave them a fake name to give them. They couldn't even do that. Like, bro, I'm doing this. Y'all came and dragged me out of the apartment when I was with my girlfriend, minding my own business.
Yeah, it's not that you were like eager, like you ran right out, like where are they at? You were just kind of, but you kind of had to. I mean, if you would have said no and shut the door, then that would have been a whole thing,
right?
Probably.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, so, like I said about becoming a slave to your reputation, bro. Like, when you're known for doing this or acting a certain way or doing a certain thing, you're going to get challenged. You're going to get people that want to prove they're better than you, or you're going to have people come up to you wanting you to help them handle something, and you're going to because it got old pretty quick. Like, yeah. But I had already, what did it say? You make your bed, lay in it.
Buy the ticket, take the ride type of deal.
Right. So like it was, a big part of it was my fault. You know what I mean? But and then you don't want to lose that respect, because then once you lose that respect, that dude's soft now. He done got soft. You know what I mean?
Right.
And there was a lot of times, bro, I was ready to quit like a long time ago, man. But I was just so far in. I was in too deep, I guess you could say. And then, like I said, I ended up to a point where I was speaking for the people, and like I said, I was one of the ones preaching that for life. Like, you know what I'm saying? There ain't no such thing as a part-time gangster, is what I used to say. Either you're in or you're out. You know what I'm saying? And then for me to slide back and to quit and to be an ex-gang member, my ego, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I didn't want to be seen that way. You know what I mean? And I don't know why. I don't know why I was so stuck on that, bro. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. When I quit the gang, everybody still gave me the same respect. At least all the other gang members from like Mexican Mafia, all these other gang members that I dealt with. Huh. The only ones I basically didn't associate with the people I used to run with. You know what I mean? And it was all good. Like, I was like, man, why was I running from this? Why didn't I do this? I could have done this a long time ago. You know what I mean? But I was stuck on loyalty, man. And that's what I tell people. Like, you got people that are loyal to people in the streets because they swear up and down that they're ride or die. And them people will turn on you in a heartbeat, bro. You know what I mean? Loyal to, like, some girls are loyal to their abusers. You know what I mean? Like, and the ones that abuse them ain't got zero right to their loyalty. You know what I mean? Just different variants of it. You know what I mean? Like, loyal to the street, loyal to a hood. But, every person in that hood's screwing them over one way or the other, but you're still loyal to them. You know what I mean? It's like, the ones you're supposed to be loyal to are the ones that actually care for you, the ones that don't want to see you doing what you're doing. People that, you know what I'm saying, like, actually care for. Like, I should have been loyal to my daughter. Yeah. I should have been loyal to my mom, my dad. I should have been loyal to, my blood or the people that cared for me. And instead of them, like they say, the ones you hurt the worst are the ones that love you. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what I was doing. I was like, and you're so blind by what you got going on. You're not intentionally doing it to hurt them. Like, I'm going to screw this person over. I'm going to hurt them. You're so blind by what you got going on that you're not even realizing what you're doing. I mean, at least that's my story. You know what I mean? What I had going on that I didn't stop and think about the effect it was having on the people that love me.
I mean, your real brothers and your real family, your real friends, man, that are loyal to you. Those are the ones who don't want nothing from you. They just want things for you.
Right.
And they'll love you when you can't offer them nothing. A lot of people will be like, man, we love you and do this, man. You're one of the, my favorite brothers and all this, because you're probably doing something for them. Then all of a sudden, if that's gone, then your stock drops real quick.
Right.
Then I think that's, kind of most people are just out for themselves at the end of everything.
Amen. Yeah, exactly.
They probably have to twist their arms too hard to give up your name. I don't think they came at them with like, here's 40 years unless you give him his name. It was probably like,
and I had plenty to give up if I wanted to. I didn't believe. I was down with the G code. Like I said, I had all kinds of things. Like if I wanted to, I didn't have to do all that time if I didn't want to, but
No. Well, I get though, but at the same time, God's seen how detrimentally loyal you was.
yeah,
He's still like you're still the same amount of loyalty. It's just now God's turned that over for His benefit through you,
amen.
and I mean that's rare these days. And
That's what I tell people. There's some of the qualities from that past life I still apply today
yeah,
in the
because
right
He's
way.
using it now. It's up. You're giving it to Him to use now.
Like networking, for example. Used to network in that lifestyle. I still network, but I just do it a different way now.
Right.
Things like that, small little, things that you can actually apply from that life to this life, but in a legitimate way.
Right. I mean, I'm glad I met you through this whole thing. And like I said, I'm newer into this than you are, man. An infant Christian type of deal. But I mean, I've seen the fruits of it, and I'm just like, this is way better than whatever I try to do with my 46 years. So my last question for you, and I don't know how you can answer this either, because everything happened, the way God intended it to be honest with you. But what do you think would have happened? Where would you be if you didn't get that letter from your daughter that night in prison? Like if you just didn't get no letter from her at all. That was a big moment.
Yeah, it was. I probably would have just went all the way in with the gang. Like that would have became my whole being. Like part of me was hanging on to my family, this and this and that. I'd probably be locked up for the rest of my life right now, knowing me. Because every time I get back into the game, like it was a blessing that I got slapped in my hand with 2 months for that lesson in the ground, and that's where I really feel like God started working. Of course, I wasn't a believer yet, but He had His plan for me already. Obviously, because I had got caught with 2 listenograms, and they dropped one because I think it was what they call that when a cop solicits you.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about? I can't think of it right now.
Yeah, me neither.
But yeah, so they dropped that one and stuck me one, let me out 63 days. And I was like, that's a blessing. I got out and I got high that first day, and and then the way it all happened, because all the timing of everything, what I'm saying? Like I went to this girl's room and got high. I went across the street, hung out with my niece and them. By 8 o'clock the following morning of the 21st day I got saved, I went back over to that girl's room and I waited for a long time. I waited for like an hour. I didn't know where to go, so I waited. If I wouldn't have done that, I would have never bumped into that girl at Walmart. You know what I mean? Then I went into the Walmart and I sat in that Walmart for about however long I did, drinking Cokes, thinking, feeling sorry for myself, having myself a pity party. If everything went in line, if I wouldn't have waited exactly when I did, I wouldn't have bumped into her when I was standing in front of that wall, And then the part I want y'all, your listeners, to hear is the way God connected all of this. I told you before in that last that Zoom, but okay. Now the girl that stepped up to me in front of Walmart's name's Helena Mitchell. Okay. There's a woman named Darylyn Sue, can't remember her last name, I think Block, that goes to her church in Galveston, right? Darylyn Sue used to go to a church called Trinity Assembly in Baytown. Okay. The connection to Trinity Assembly in Baytown is that young girl I was dating when I first got out of prison, I told you about, the toxic one. Her grandma goes to that church. And me and my girlfriend at the time had been to that church with her a few times. And she knew that I had relapsed and she was always praying for me. That girl, Darylyn, was going to Trinity Assembly with her, and they were praying for me. She had no idea who I was. And she ended up going to church in Galveston called Church of the Living God. She changed churches where Helena goes to church. And then a City Quake event came up, and she talked Helena into going because Helena she's real anxiety. She don't like talking to people, talking to strangers. And she convinced Helena to go out and do this event. And I was the first one that Helena walked up to and prayed with. Do you see how it's all connected? You know what I mean? My ex-girlfriend's grandma was praying with that woman who ended up recruiting the girl that ended up showing up to me at Walmart. We didn't find this out till months later. You hear me? All of a sudden, Helena's calling me, how do you know so-and-so? I said, that's my ex-girlfriend's grandma. Why? Oh my God, you're not going to believe this. You know what I mean? And so they had been praying for me, and then the girl they sent out walks up right up to me. You know what I mean? And I got the video of that day. It's on my Facebook somewhere. They recorded it because they were doing that event called City Quake. So I got the whole sinner's prayer and everything on video.
Oh wow, I got to see that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'll try to find a link and send it to you. But
Please do.
yeah, they made like a little video out of it for City Quake. Of when I was in there talking to everybody, they were asking my story. And it's about a 5-minute video.
I got to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. But yeah, so that's God, like that's the way God works. You know what I'm saying? Entrapment. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the big things I think that I'm fortunate to be blessed with is now that I've got out of my way quite a bit, out of God's way, more importantly, I can see things how they lined up and piggybacked and were designed to happen at certain times in my life. That if this didn't happen, this didn't happen. If this didn't like everything just kind of in certain situations, I can see that like all this goes all the way back to, well, it had to be his plan, because if he didn't have this person created to be born, this wouldn't have happened, and she wouldn't have been here. And it has to all lead back to God and be from him, because there's nothing and nobody else that could put these things in order in the timely fashion for them to happen. For her to be there outside of Walmart, they're drinking Cokes at a certain time. There's just too many coincidences for things not to be God.
Right.
Period. I mean, that's
exactly. That's why I always tell people Ray Charles could see that it was God working.
Man, Jason, this guy's got an awesome Facebook group called From Heathen to Heaven and a YouTube channel. Him and his daughter, actually, you guys, have people come on and share their testimonies, now and then. And so I encourage anybody to hit up his page, and I think you can send in 5-10 minute videos and stuff like that. I would actually love to hear your daughter's perspective on a lot of this stuff, like what she might be thinking.
All you got to do is go look back at our podcast. The episode 2 is her testimony.
Oh, okay. No.
Yeah.
I'll be doing that, man, because it's just
testimony. Episode 2 is her testimony, and then we take off. We got 8 episodes right now. The next episode 9, we'll be doing my girlfriend's testimony.
Decent. Okay.
Right.
Got that on video, so she said. Jason, it's been an absolute honor, man. It's been a privilege. Thank you for coming on Discovery Fellowship a couple Sundays ago and lighting this whole thing. I was like, man, I got to hear the rest. A lot of people is going to get to hear it and see it, later on. But any last words you want any of the listeners to hear? And I also ask you just to pray us out, man, and God bless you.
It's just about glorifying God. This story has nothing to do with me. It's all about just showing y'all what God's done in my life. I couldn't possibly do any of this. When I'm in control, for about the first hour of this video, y'all heard what happened when I was in control. When I submitted, I said, God, please take over. I can't do this anymore. That's when everything changed. So all glory to God, all glory to Jesus Christ. I like to specify Jesus Christ, because when people hear God, they can give any definition of God. When I say God, I'm talking about Jesus Christ. But I don't know where y'all are at in y'all's walk. If you're high right now, if you're drunk right now, you're the ones we're talking to. We're the ones we're trying to reach. I was a career criminal, gang member, everything under the sun, drug addict, stuff needles in my arms to get high, whatever. Just throw it. I'm saying I catch it, because I was that. And now I got an amazing life, and it's only because of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And with that, we'll pray out. Dear Heavenly Father, just thank you for this time, this opportunity to glorify your name, just to put the word out there, and not only that your word be heard, but your word be received and your word be applied to our lives, Lord. You know what I mean? We can read the Bible all we want, but if we're not applying it to our lives, Lord, then we're just wasting our time, Lord. So let's just stay focused on you and your will that's perfect for us, Lord. For a lot of us have known time and time again, our own self-will is self-destructive. Your will for us is perfect, Lord. And just let us learn that and let's apply that, Lord. And just once again, thank you for giving me another opportunity to glorify you in everything that I do. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Absolutely, absolute honor, man.
Thank you for this platform, bro.
Bro, thank you for your time, man. I absolutely appreciate it. Let's stay in contact, please. And anything that I can help with, I mean, just hit me up. Yeah, once again, everybody that's listening now or listening later, From Heathen to Heaven, Facebook group that Jason P. Hamilton is admin for. It's phenomenal. YouTube channel as well. Share part of your testimonies with him. Let's just keep telling people what God's done for us that we was never gonna do for ourselves.
Let me say this on my way out. You know, man, some people testimonies aren't competitions. And I say that because, okay, yeah, I might be able to connect on with a prisoner because I've been to prison. You know what I mean? Some people are like, well, my story isn't that bad. Like, bro, you have a story. You have somebody that you can connect with. Never think, oh, I haven't been through what he's been through. Don't compare.
No.
Like I said, this isn't a competition, bro. You have an amazing story. God's given it to you. Go use it. Plant seeds, please. And Foster Chambers, I'd love to hear it, man. Hit me up on Facebook. All right, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Everybody out there, God-based recovery, Discovery Fellowship Zoom meeting coming up probably about 5 minutes. Get that Zoom ID and join us for fellowship. Again, best of the family, Jason. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Yep.